In this fast-paced, rapidly changing industry, the next big thing is always just around the corner. WCX is the best place to hear the automotive industry's brightest minds theorize what the next might be. WCX TV is back for one more episode to show you what amazing innovations are on the horizon.
This is WCX TV.
You're watching WCX TV.
WCX TV starts right now.
Hi, I'm Gina Phillips, host of WCX TV. You know, this meeting is such an incredible hub for all of the latest and greatest in automotive engineering. Now, before we pack up and head home, we're bringing you one more episode packed with big ideas that are sure to shape the future of the industry.
If we could double the graduation rate of women, 40% women graduating from U.S. university undergraduate STEM education programs by 2030 could fill our talent gap.
Joan will sit down to tell us about the 40 by 30 initiative to get more women involved in automotive engineering.
Electrification is right around the corner. It doesn't cost as much as it used to. The price curve is going down like hyperbolically.
Sandy Munro will join us to discuss how we can increase consumer acceptance of EVs. Plus, we'll take a look at one nonprofit whose collaborations are accelerating the growth of clean transportation.
Our Hydrotech fuel cells have the capability of providing extreme powers, and it's scalable. So we have the ability to go all the way up to 930E mining truck to outer space.
And last but certainly not least, we'll head to the General Motors booth to talk to Mark Dickens about hydrogen fuel cell technology. With so many hot topics, bright ideas, and brilliant minds, we know you won't want to miss a second of today's show. You can keep watching WCX TV on screens around Huntington Place, in your room at the Weston Book Cadillac, on the WCX 2024 annual meeting website, and on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter. And now let's dive into it with Bob Galyen, who will share his insights on what the future holds for BEVs. Joining me in the studio now is Bob Galyen. He's here to talk all about BEVs. Bob, I really need you to give me a lay of the land when it comes to batteries.
I'll be happy to do that, Gina. So if you look at how the manufacturing is done, you have to scale up to the gigawatt level to make it cost effective for making good electric vehicle batteries. And the two predominant today are lithium iron phosphate batteries, and another is nickel manganese cobalt oxide type of batteries that make up the active materials of the batteries. But then they're packaged into a plethora of cells that go into a common array that we call a battery pack. And it's very important quality-wise that they are the best batteries that can be made, because you need to work in the parts per billion failure rates if you want to be successful in the world of batteries.
Where can computer-aided engineering best factor into the design process?
Clearly, the development of computer-aided engineering has transpired in my lifetime. It's been a remarkable transformation. Back in the 1970s, when I was still going to college, I used a slide rule, and then we got a hand calculator, and then we went into computers.
Yeah.
So you can imagine from the 1970s, late 1970s to where we are today, the massive improvements that we've seen in computer and the speed of the computer, as well as the software and the understanding of how algorithms work. And now the invention of artificial intelligence is translating into enormous breakthroughs in battery technology, as well as other fields of endeavor in the scientific disciplines.
How do you balance forging boldly ahead on these new ideas, new technologies, but also balancing safety at the same time?
It takes a great deal of experience to find what I call the gotchas. Gotchas are those things that you don't see when you're developing a new technology. Until you put them in the application, you don't know how they're going to behave. And this is why many of the battery manufacturers and the car manufacturers are very careful that they take the product into limited production launches in order for them to get that exposure of the new products to the way people are going to use the products in the market. So that is a basic premise, that you can develop all you want until you put it in the field and put it against what all the people that will use it for you won't find all the problems.
That's a really good point. I mean, people are predictable to some degree, but sometimes societal trends or something comes along that shifts the way that people use technology. So what's the next step in making this mainstream?
We're already seeing it. We call it the electrification movement. If you stop and think about where batteries are used, it's almost in every product we make today, whether it's a handheld device like a cell phone, a tablet, a computer, in entertainment type of devices, all the way up to military applications, where departments of defense around the world are developing battery technologies in conjunction with battery manufacturers and themselves, because the warfighter, there's almost nothing that he takes to the battlefield that he uses as a part of his armament that isn't powered by a battery. Night goggle vision systems, sighting systems on their rifles, health monitoring systems, short-range telecommunications, long-range communications, and so on, as well as uplinks for GPS and identification for locations. So it's enormously important to Department of Defense around the world.
Well, thank you for addressing it with me today, Bob. Enjoy the rest of your week here in Detroit.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again, Bob. Well, we all know battery safety is an absolute priority in this industry, and the WCX floor is no exception to this. Let's head over to the ride and drive area, where we'll discover how experts are introducing stickers for state governments. These stickers aim to assist first responders in identifying the type of vehicles they're approaching and how to safely handle them.
First responders have had trouble for quite a while now with identifying electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. Those are the vehicles that can have big batteries that can catch fire. The lithium batteries are very hard to put out. A little over a year ago, the SAE found a solution in a European standard called ISO 17840. The Europeans had come up with a symbol like a diamond that they would put on their heavy vehicles, the trucks and buses and so forth. SAE decided to take on that idea, except to put it on a license plate with a small sticker. And the sticker gives you the type of vehicle. So for example, a sticker with a lightning bolt is a high voltage electric only vehicle. If we have a lightning bolt, a red P for petroleum, and the H for hybrid, there's a hybrid vehicle. And we even have them for fuel cell vehicles. This is part of a new SAE standard recommended practice called J3108. New York is the first to come up with legislation to adopt the new J3108 sticker system that the SAE has developed. The difference in fighting fires on electric cars and hybrids versus gasoline cars is that you have a fundamentally different approach. On a gasoline car, you can generally open the hood, apply water, and put out a fire. And it only takes a few hundred gallons if you get there in time and the plastic interior's not burning. Electric cars are a totally different animal because the batteries which catch fire are underneath the car. Being underneath the car, when you put water on top, it just rolls off. So firefighters are learning to cool the bottom of a vehicle if it's an EV versus the top of a vehicle if it's a gasoline car.
With me in the studio now is Joan Wills, and I'm going to talk to her about the 40 by 30 initiative. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. How's everything going so far this week?
I'm enjoying the conference. It's inspiring to be in the company of so many amazing innovators, engineers, inventors, startups at this forum. So great discussions and very inspiring.
Well, and you're here to talk about, many things, I'm sure, but one of the things is the 40 by 30 initiative. So I want you to break it down for me. What is that?
Sure. So the 40 by 30 initiative started in a dinner conversation with the SAE Foundation Trustees Group, where I was sharing some research from the Society of Women Engineers that the graduation rate of women from US universities has been flat at roughly 20% for the last 10 years. And we happened to notice that as we talked about the STEM talent gap to enable our industry to transition to low carbon, zero technology vehicles and mobility solutions, it happened to be the same number. If we could double the graduation rate of women by 2030. So 40% women graduating from US university undergraduate STEM education programs by 2030 could fill our talent gap. Now, that's a dramatic oversimplification of how we will solve the problem, but it's a good just high-level statement of the problem and one potential solution path.
Well, yeah, it's a very clear goal, and why not strive for it? I guess, what are the reasons why we'd want more women in the industry?
Yeah, so one, half the world is women, and so as we look at the STEM talent gap that faces our industry, that's a very undertapped and very qualified, potentially capable workforce. So that's one, availability. Second is, as we have more diverse teams that are inventing solutions, we will have better solutions that are more applicable to our societies, our communities, and our world.
Why do you think the percentage is so low for women coming out of university?
Yeah, now that is a complex problem, and we do have a research article that you can look at on the news path that's published by Boston Consulting Group, who worked with us on this research. But I mean, we see that women and girls fall out of interest in STEM at every stage. And while, kindergarten through second grade, third grade, girls are very energetic, engaged in classrooms. By the time they get to third, fourth, fifth grade, math gets harder. And girls who often sit still and want to have gotten 100%, when they see harder problems, sometimes they will step back if they haven't earlier on been encouraged to try hard at tough problems. Where boys who have trouble sitting still are told keep trying. And that keep trying message works better when the math gets harder and the problems get harder.
What do you say to the teachers, I guess, and how can they influence things?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I would say just leverage opportunities to learn about what engineering can be. Don't be afraid of the math yourself. I know for my own daughters, some of their teachers actually found the math hard and so discouraged that engagement. And so programs like A World in Motion, where engineers can be present, can help teachers understand and learn about opportunities, and ask for help to make these role models and career paths visible, because there are a number of people out there doing these interesting types of work, and making that visible and helping students see role models is helpful. And you mentioned maybe in the role I'm in there aren't as many women, but a high school student doing great in math and enjoying a project in science can be a role model to a grade school student. A college student can be a role model to a high school student. So I think there actually are a lot more role models, and part of what I spend a lot of my time doing is convincing women at a lot of levels that they are role models to those following after them.
Oh, that's so interesting. And then connecting them together. Oh, very cool. Yes. Well, I'm so glad you stopped by to tell me all about this. Thank you so much, Joan. Have an excellent rest of your week here in Detroit.
Thanks for the discussion.
Strengthening this industry takes hard work from motivated people across all sectors. In the nonprofit world, CALSTART is working with innovative partners to accelerate the growth of clean transportation.
CALSTART is the leading national organization in the United States driving the clean transportation industry forward. We're working with our member companies to build the market so that we can decarbonize, clean up the transportation sector.
CALSTART is a mission-driven nonprofit organization that focuses on clean transportation technologies and solutions with the ultimate goal of providing clean air for all. The clean mobility options that we are working on include zero-emission trucks, buses, and cars, fuel cell and electric vehicles. In addition to that, we consider and look at options that will use sustainable, renewable fuels. Being a member of CALSTART really brings the benefits of being part of a dynamic industry that is changing and creating these collaborations to achieve these very ambitious goals.
We are going to be actively working with delegates from around the world, from industry players, NGOs, and others to help them understand that the technology is here, there's product now. We can move forward, we can do this right now. And getting educated about what's possible here, in that we not only need to move faster, but we can move faster toward a zero-emission commercial vehicle future.
Here with me in the studio now is Sandy Munro of Munro and Associates to chat about consumer acceptance when it comes to EVs. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Oh, no problem, Gina. It's very nice to be here. Thank you.
What would you say the consumer attitude towards EVs is right now?
Probably confused. I'd say that you've got some people that are just absolutely flat out in and they know everything about EVs. And then you've got the masses that have no idea what's going on. And unfortunately, there's a lot of miscommunication out there about what's good and bad about EVs, and so they're very hesitant or confused.
What would you recommend to consumers to learn more about EVs?
The best thing they can do is do their homework. There's quite a number of EVs that are out right now, but there's going to be a flood of them. And what people need to do is find out what's the right thing to buy for their budget. And now that EVs are about the same price from a powertrain standpoint, $100 per kilowatt hour that's what they need to know about. And now that makes it the same price as driving an ICE vehicle. The only difference is that it's very inexpensive. An EV, once you buy it, there's virtually no cost. Your cost for transportation, your fuel, is a quarter of what you're going to get out of gas, and then there's no oil changes, there's no maintenance. Even your brake pads and your tires will last longer.
What trends are you seeing that kind of are shaping the industry in the short term and the long term?
If we look at the most advanced vehicle that's out there right now, that would be the Cybertruck. And so what's coming in there is there's no connection between your steering wheel and the front wheels. It's drive-by-wire, same as what we would use in an airplane, fly-by-wire. It has an Ethernet loop that allows for much better self-driving characteristics. It's probably the safest vehicle on the planet ever. And I could take on a tank with that thing. And it's got rear-wheel steering so that you can take a big monster truck and make it spin around like it's a Volkswagen.
Wow.
A Beetle, I should say.
I've always wanted one of those.
Get a convertible.
Oh, okay. Do you see a big transformation in the supply base as we transition to low carbon propulsion systems?
It depends on the company. So one of the companies that we had to look at was ZF. ZF has made the transition to move away from just building transmissions, because that's what they were the best at. People with brains were using ZF. And they've moved away, and now they're into steer-by-wire, rear-wheel steering, and a bunch of other different features and functions that you'll find on an electric car that you won't find on an ICE vehicle. So they've made the transmission. Others are not so lucky, and they waited too long, or they thought that maybe electrification wouldn't happen. They're in trouble. They're in deep trouble, yeah.
Where do you see this industry in 10 years?
I made a prediction in 2019. I did a round the world tour, and at that time I said that by 2030, 50% of the vehicles on the planet that are being produced are going to be electric. And that was met with a lot of laughter and thumbs down. Now, I believe I was wrong. I believe it's 2028, and I can tell you right now, electrification is right around the corner. It doesn't cost as much as it used to. The price curve is going down like hyperbolically. It's amazing, exponentially, I should say.
Wow. Well, thank you for sitting down with us and sharing all of this. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
We need to employ innovative solutions to increase consumer interest and acceptance of EVs. One of the most innovative ideas in the EV space right now is hydrogen fuel cell technology. Let's close out today's episode at General Motors' booth to see how they're embracing this technology.
We're here today to talk about the exciting worlds of GM fuel cells. GM fuel cell technology started 60 years ago with the Apollo space mission, and since then it's evolved. Actually, it's really cool. Today we have the first real-world application of a fuel cell in a vehicle, and all the way up to what we're showing today with a Class 8 semi, where we actually apply fuel cells to it as well. And I think the exciting part of this is that fuel cells have hit the critical mass. We're not here to talk about the inner workings of the fuel cell, we're here to talk about the real-world applications of the fuel cells. And we have a wide variety of applications here, all the way from recharging units that are powering and recharging the EV vehicles that you're tire squealing on out here, all the way through to powering this Class 8 semi that's sitting by us. GM's vision is a world with zero emissions. And that vision doesn't just apply to passenger vehicles, light-duty trucks, or SUVs. With the application of the fuel cell, in conjunction with the Ultium batteries, we're able to address a market above that, where there's limits in energy usages that are much higher than what the batteries can typically provide. The Ultium fuel cell gives us the ability to power vehicles that are typically powered by a diesel engine. Hydrogen is really cool because it gives us the capability to feed, to convert that to energy through our Hydrotech fuel cells. But because its energy density is so high, it's 3 times the energy density of diesel or gasoline, as well as the fact that it has the ability to refuel just like diesel does. The refueling times are really low. It gives us the ability to replace the customer's expectation on what they were used to seeing out of a diesel, but go even beyond that for range and power capabilities. I think the range of industries are endless. Our Hydrotech fuel cells have the capability of providing extreme powers, and it's scalable. So we have the ability to go all the way up to, like I mentioned, a 930E mining truck, a 320-ton vehicle, to if you think about stationary power supplies, you could scale these and you could provide AC power to all kinds of industries, or actually emergencies, military applications, aerospace, and as I mentioned before, outer space.
CALSTART is the leading national organization in the United States driving the clean transportation industry forward so that we can decarbonize, clean up the transportation sector.
We have buyers associated with cell phones, e-bikes, electric vehicles. Our Electrochemical Safety Research Institute is at the forefront of a lithium-ion battery type fire.
We, as Politecnico di Torino researchers, are teaming up with Dumare to push the boundary of research in hydrogen internal combustion engines.
The collaboration between Politecnico di Torino and Dumare represents a blend of industry experience and academic insight.
And with that, another year of WCX TV has come to a close. It's been another amazing meeting full of bold ideas, brilliant engineering, and innovative technology. If you want to revisit any of the hot topics we discussed, you can keep watching WCX TV on screens around Huntington Place, in your room at the Weston Book Cadillac, on the WCX 2024 annual meeting website, and on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll be back in Detroit next year for another amazing WCX meeting. Until then, I'm Gina Phillips, signing off.